Have you ever wanted an AI you can teach? Well, you're in luck. Welcome back to Listen to Leo. In today's episode, I wanted to share with you the latest progress on my AI co-founder. For those of you who don't know, myaicofounder.com is an app that I am building out in order to help indie hackers and really entrepreneurs of all sizes have access to a strategic partner that they can use in running their businesses. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. I know this. I have failed at this more times than most people have even bothered to try. And so I can tell you from firsthand experience how hard it is. And one of the things I wanted to do was really build out an AI co founder that could act as someone to bounce ideas off of, to bring perspectives in that I don't think of because I'm very technically minded. And so I've been setting all of this up, and I've got a chatbot that actually works really well. It learns about the user and their business the more they talk to it, and it can really be very, very helpful. But one of the things that I've been working on for the past couple weeks is the ability to get it to learn from new material. And so the big picture I have here is letting users use a podcast link or a YouTube link or a blog link or whatever, and having the AI read it, ingest it, however you want to talk about it, and remember that going forward. And so over time, the content that you provide your AI gives you a very customized AI based on the problems that you are thinking about. And so it should ideally get to the point where the AI is going to have a complete context of your business. It's going to be able to suggest timely interventions and actions, and maybe even take those actions at some point in the future. I am looking at giving it more and more capabilities as time goes on. But right now, it's mostly just discussion. But I do have it learning now from the content I provide it. And so, how do I do this? So, to kind of break it down from a high level, I start with the idea that there are different things that happen during a conversation. So, if we're talking between humans, we normally don't think about all of these processes because they happen in the blink of an eye. And I say something, you respond, and we go back and forth, right? But sometimes there are little pauses, especially as the topics get deeper, and you say, hold on, I've got to think about that. Okay, so what is thinking? Cool, let's get deep. So the way I've broken it down is, first of all, there's this kind of focused memory on the problem space. And so for me, this is the user and their business. And so some of this information is user provided. So they provide a profile on themselves and their business. And this is something they have access to and can change. And then there is kind of this repository of questions and answers and things that the AI has learned. And so basically, as it goes on, it keeps asking itself, hey, do I have any questions about the business? Let's keep track of those. And then, have I learned anything about the business that can answer these questions? And so it'll kind of constantly adjust the questions it has and what it knows based on the user's business and what they're doing. So that's the second part of it. Now, the third part is something I'm calling memories. And so what I wanted to do is be able to learn based on this content. And so the way I've structured it up is I've got it as an agent that connects to a Pinecone vector store. And so I actually have multiple namespaces that I use. And so one, I have kind of the idea of cards. And this to me is a bit like the Dewey Decimal System for libraries, if you're old like me. The card catalog, right? And so when the AI is trying to remember something, it looks through the cards. And the cards are basically like, what are the title and description of the content, like what did you put in about the content as like its name and what you want the AI to learn. So that's kind of the title and description piece. And so from there, it looks up and says, okay, what are the tools that actually might make sense to use? And so it pulls in all of the sources that have the most relevant information based on the message that comes in. And then all of these tools are provided to an agent that can go through and kind of pick and choose the different tools on its own as it deems fit and ultimately come to an answer. And then finally, I take kind of the thoughts and the memories and I put them into a final prompt that I use to then deliver the conversation to the user. And so this is not the fastest process, I'll admit, but it's not terribly slow. And for the amount of processing that goes on, it's actually not as slow as I thought it might be. And I do think that we're going to be able to speed this up in various ways. So I'm going to play around with that. But ultimately, I want to see how good this is. I've gotten it to the point where I can show that it can learn new concepts based on a blog. And so one of the things I did is I have this idea of the paradox of discoverability, wrote a newsletter on it. Turns out that's actually already a term used for a very specific thing in UI UX design. And so basically it's like the more you have the app, the more capabilities you give an app, the harder it is to like surface all of them because there's all these different options and then people get confused, or you hide all of the different options and then people can't find it and they don't know that it's available to use. Now I talked about the paradox of discoverability a good bit differently. And so I gave it the blog and told it to learn about it, and then asked a question about the paradox of discoverability and saw that the answer changed from the first version to the second version, which is mine. So that to me is really, really interesting because I think it does show a lot of potential for this learning system to be able to develop a better understanding of the vocabulary that it uses in its specific context. And so by learning from both the entrepreneur and the content that they find the most valuable, there's going to be a lot of overlap in that information that really narrows it down to a very specific problem domain. At least that's what I'm hoping. So we'll see how that goes. But I also don't know how well this will scale. And so here's my plan. And this is the part where it gets kind of fun. So basically, I'm just going to set up some API access to this learning endpoint, and I'm going to start feeding it all sorts of information. Probably going to also open up endpoints for like podcasts, YouTube, and newsletters more specifically, because I want to get it to just start reading the newsletters that I think are pretty valuable. I want it to listen to the podcasts that I listen to. I want it to watch YouTube videos that I watch, things like that. And so by getting it to consume this information, I want to see, first of all, how responsive is it when it has to search through 500 links as opposed to 4? And I want to see, like, how valuable is this? Like, does it really understand everything about what I'm doing more by feeding it this extra context and this extra information in the way that I think it will? And to me, that is just really exciting. I think there's a lot of potential for different applications here. And in fact, I plan on trying a bunch of them out once I have some of these different pieces set up. This will be like Eddie Murphy in The Nutty Professor, and I'm just going to be playing all sorts of different user roles to try it out, because I do think that this has a lot of different potential applications. And one of the things I'm typically good at is building out very, very generalized products and solutions, but I need to get better at marketing to more specific problems with them. And that is where my AI co-founder comes in. But still need to figure out exactly which markets inside of kind of this indie hacker entrepreneur space are really going to see the value of an AI co-founder. And mostly I just want to continue to validate. I've gotten some really good early feedback. People are excited by the idea. And now I think it's a matter of making it a little bit better, getting it into the hands of more people, and seeing what happens from there. Because, yeah, I'm really excited by this. I've gotten a lot of value out of it just from chatting back and forth with my co-founder and talking through ideas, getting some ideas. But one of the things I've noticed is that it's not completely up to date. And that is where I think this idea of constantly feeding it content from the real world to build out its knowledge base based on the current events that I care about, I think is going to have a really outsized impact. And so I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today. Thanks for watching. I'll send some updates out probably next week on how this is received, how users are coming along, and so on and so forth. So if you want to give it a try, still free to use. Check out myaicofounder.com and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.